It's Voyager, Please, A Hateful Voyage Through the Delta Quadrant. My name is Joseph.
I'm Peter.
So how about it, man? Like, here it is. We've reached the end of the road on season 2. Can you believe it? Can you believe we've survived through so much together? Do you feel like our bond is stronger, Peter, through having suffered?
It's a straight up mind meld over here. We've been doing this for almost a year at this point. This is November 1st today, 2018. I believe we started Voyager, Please, January top of 2018?
First couple weeks in January is when we kind of conceived of this.
So that's 2 seasons in 1 year. Exciting times. And
yeah, you just, like, you're doing the math in your head of, like, how many more years have I set myself up for every week having to watch an episode of Star Trek Voyager? And how many of them are going to be shit? How many of them are going to make the journey worthwhile? How many more jokes can I make about civilian clothes or replicator rations?
The replicator rations are no joke. That's serious business in my book, man. That's anthropology.
You know, I'm just looking forward to, when we hit those speed bumps and it penetrates those shields you've built around yourself to try and justify this adventure. The gone native, I'm starting to enjoy, Voyager unironically part of yourself.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you not enjoy Voyager?
Nah,
you've seen all this stuff.
I really like some of the Voyager that's to come, for sure. It's these early seasons that I view with the greatest contempt. I gotta admit, there was quite a bit in season 2 that was better than I had remembered. The middle of the season, I guess we'll get into this more when we do our live stream, which is kind of my partial segue into our business at the top of the show. But there was some stuff in there that was better than I remembered it being, and so that was enjoyable. But it's like little specks of gold just surrounded by rancid meat.
I'm going to say this. We were going to do our season 2 rip, where we rip into season 2 and lay it to rest. We've already got some stuff we want to talk about, and that's going to be one of our live YouTube podcasts. Not podcast, but one of our live events. If anybody out there in the audience has anything that they want us to touch on, talk on, any award categories, that's something we like to do is, come up with awards to assign parts of the season. Go ahead and get those up on the Facebook group. Hit us up through Facebook or voyagerplease@gmail.com. But one of the ones that's going to make a return is, I think we'll do a top 5 best episodes, or maybe top 3 best episodes, top 5 worst episodes, because there's no shortage of them. There's a lot. It's going to take me a while sitting down and looking at these notes. Like, these seasons are long, and we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we've got, since we still haven't judged Threshold, we've got 25 episodes to choose from. And if I can only pick 5 of them for that list of the worst, that's a tough road to hoe. Going all the way back to the very first episode of the season, the 37s, really off to a start that kicks you right in the fucking groin.
Teeth. And of course, the 37s rears its ugly head again in this episode. But You wanted to segue into our schedule, I believe?
Yeah, so we touched on at the very end of the last episode, so if you didn't catch it, just for your listening pleasure, here's the story. You're listening to this on November 8th. The next week, or the week after, we will do the live stream. It's going to depend on our schedules, because we're doing family stuff, we're traveling, and all that stuff that everyone does in the holidays. So we'll communicate to you guys when we're going to be able to do the live stream. If you can't catch it live, don't worry. We will post it as a podcast audio as well, so that you can pick it up, and we'll communicate that across all our social media channels when that goes up. And the week after Thanksgiving, that Thursday after Thanksgiving, we're going to do Threshold at long last before we move into season 3, so we can start fresh on our season 3 journey.
I'm afraid that Threshold's not going to live up to the hype.
Brother, it do. It fucking do. Like, it's bad and weird, and like you're like, man, this is bad and weird, and this is kind of terrible. And then you get to the last 15 minutes, and it's like your fucking third eye opens, and you can perceive, time and space in ways you could never thought possible before. I can't describe it. It goes to plaid. It's fucking ridiculous. I'm looking forward to actually doing a podcast with you live and watching the episode live so I can see like your reactions. Because we've done this almost a year, and Peter and I, we've been friends for over a decade now, but we actually haven't hung out, I think, in 2018. We talk every week, but we don't. You live in Columbus, I live in Cincinnati, a couple hours apart, so we don't like get to hang out. So it's gonna be we haven't watched an episode together. We haven't gone on this journey together. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that means I'm gonna have to put on pants for the podcast, and
sacrifices have to be made sometimes.
Yeah. All right, man. Speaking of sacrifices, season 2, episode 26, Basics, part 1.
Oh yeah. So in the strong tradition of Star Trek season finale cliffhangers, we get Voyager's first one here, and every season from this point forward ends in a cliffhanger.
I don't mind the cliffhangers. It's a fun way to join the seasons. It's kind of a good play in continuity. Certainly, Best of Both Worlds is the best example of this ever happening that I've seen, and I don't think you're ever going to top Best of Both Worlds. But not that we should even waste our breath in comparing this season finale to season 1's finale, which was Tuvok Boot Camp. What the hell was that called?
Oh, yeah.
Space Magic is...
Yeah, well,
friendship.
We called it Space Friendship is Magic, but yeah, fuck. I mean, this is certainly an improvement. Let's say that first. Basics is definitely a better season finale than the shit that they ended season 1 with, which wasn't even supposed to be the finale. And I don't mind the concept of the cliffhanger season finale. I just think it gets way overused in Star Trek. And Voyager goes to some lengths sometimes, and they do it right. Sometimes it really sucks. This is decent. I like this one. I think this wraps up the early phase of Star Trek relatively good between the two installments we'll end up watching.
Well, we certainly start off very strong, and that is going to be with a mentor-pupil session between old Tuvok and what is quickly becoming one of my favorite Voyager characters, Lon Suder.
Yeah, we get our boy Lon, our resident murder crazy psycho. He's turned over a new leaf. He's apparently imprisoned in his quarters, which I thought was interesting. He's not in the brig. He's in his room.
Well, we knew damn well that was going to be the case. When we had our run-in with Real Talk Tuvok, which was during Meld, this is exactly what he said it was going to be. Lon buckled down in his room, a cold-blooded murderer, content to live in, the lap of luxury.
And he is. He's actually doing, I guess, therapeutic aeroponic vegetable growing, or he's doing some orchid hybrids, and he's apparently unlocked a special talent for genetically engineering plants, which is very like supervillainy, when you think about it. Like the crazy murder guy's gotten into creating life with his bare hands.
So keep in mind, we're talking about the voice of Chucky here from Child's Play, and I don't know what it is about this guy, but I feel like he brings more life and more depth into this performance and makes Suder really one of the most interesting characters, I think, on Voyager, fairly easily within the first 5 minutes of this intro.
How's the right way to describe it? He seems almost like he's like an earnest bumbler. I don't know how else to describe it. He's very intense.
Like a very scary Barkley is yes! What I think he comes off.
Yeah, that is perfect. Yes, a scary Barkley. Like a Barkley, but you would not hang out with him after work.
No, and by scary Barkley, what we mean is a horrifying Barkley. Like This guy. So, quick recap. If you're joining us for the first time, Lon was a member of the Maquis who is a crazy serial killer. Yeah, serial killer. And he just up and cracked one of these Starfleet guys over the head with a space pipe and then shoved him in like an exhaust shaft in cold-blooded murder. He got found out about it and through a mind meld was able to find some peace, tone his shit down. But he is still a complete lunatic. Like it's everything about his body language. He's shaking. His eyes look all crazy. His speech is weird. Like, he's just real unsettling. But he seems to be doing better, and he has it hung up in his mind that he owes the ship a debt for what reason I couldn't possibly fathom. But he's got a way that he thinks he can improve oxygen output, and it's going to require a sign-off from the captain, and we kind of get made this promise that the captain's going to come down and check him out. So, nice check-in on Lon. I'm always happy to see reoccurring characters, especially good support characters elsewhere on the ship. So a very strong start to this episode for me.
And we cut then to a little bridge action where they find a communications buoy in the middle of nowhere. And they go check this buoy out. And it's a Kazon buoy. And the message in it is from the Queen herself. And she's evidently given birth to the genetic material stolen Chakotay baby. So again, in case you're just joining us, Seska, the traitor of Voyager, who was a Maquis but was actually an Obsidian Order agent in Cardassian, stole Chakotay's DNA so as to impregnate herself with his baby. And baby has been born, and this message is like garbled and kind of like at a Dutch angle, and is like she's saying that Kulla, her lover amongst the Kazon, not down with this baby being part human, part Cardassian, wanted it to be his own, and now she's in danger and the baby's in danger, and Chakotay has to come help. It is the world's most obvious trap from the beginning, but this is what Voyager's here for. It's here to find traps.
Mm-hmm. Piloted by the trap queen herself, Catherine Janeway. Chakotay and Janeway have a little I won't say that. They have a little meeting in her ready room, and it just really drives home the fact I hate the way Janeway says Chakotay. Have you picked up on this at all? She's like Chakotay.
Yeah, she says it kind of like B'Elanna does, but kind of not. Like B'Elanna, like is like somehow like in touch with his true name, like Chakotay. He's like, you almost want a little like Indian music like teaser at the end of how she says it. Like it's in a Western. Mm-hmm. Chakotay. But Janeway, and then everybody else is Chakotay. Mm-hmm. Hey, Commander.
She says Chakotay like she's doing like karate chop moves.
Chakotay.
Yeah.
Chakotay.
Basically.
She knows the way of the Chakotay.
They go off to the side. Chakotay's all flustered because if there's one thing I legitimately do love about the Chakotay character, is as boring as this motherfucker is, as soon as Seska gets anywhere around him, he does not know up from down anymore. And it's like she just reaches in and flips a switch on him and puts him into like panic mode. Super easy. It's a great character device to keep him interesting and bring out new sides to him, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, he's only interesting in episodes where he's getting fucked with by Seska. And sure enough, he's incredibly interesting in this episode. And from the jump, when he's in that meeting, he's pissed off about the situation. And Janeway very quickly says, yeah, do I think this bitch is putting us in a trap? Fuck yes, I think this could be a trap. Like, she's absolutely 100% capable of making all this up to fuck with you and fuck with us because she knows this shit would work.
I'm going to disagree and say there's one other time that Chakotay is interesting, and that's when he's being a catty bitch. That might actually like catty bitch Chakotay more than baby mama crazy Chakotay. So she drops this line, because, basically what they're laying out is, Chakotay, please bring your magical, fantastic ship of Alpha Quadrant technology that we have been trying to hijack every time you've heard from us this entire season, into this big trap where we're going to try and hijack you, obviously. And Chakotay seems torn. He doesn't really want to acknowledge this kid as his. It's not like it even got made the old-fashioned way. They, during interrogation, jammed a big football field length needle into his neck and stole his, I don't know, his soul or whatever with it, but that's how she whipped this baby up. So this thing is a complete fabrication against his will. But Janeway goes to him. I think I really speak for the whole crew when I say we stand behind you, Chakotay. And I'm like, man, because they're going to go for it.
Oh, yeah.
And here's where we get our episode split, right? And because I have to sit through these episodes and because I'm willing to try and find the silver linings, it's like, all right, maybe there might be some good episodes to these things. The last one, Lame House on the Prairie, that was preservations or something, reservations.
Reservations.
Was it reservations?
Indian. No, it's resolutions.
Whatever.
I'd like that you think it was reservations with the Indian building little cabins and shit. Yeah.
But it's like, there's maybe a good episode in here somewhere, and then there's just some garbage stuff. Sometimes the garbage stuff is ramrodding a plot device down your throat, smart people making stupid decisions. Sometimes it's that whole love story we had to sit through last week. But here you've got what's ultimately, I think, going to be a pretty cool episode by the end of it. But the basis is just so stupid. You're low on fuel. You're trying to get home. You're responsible to the life of how many different crew members? You've already wasted, what was the total count? Like 8 months? No, at least 6 months. Because of that last episode, making up for lost ground. You're going to take everybody's life and you're going to set it to the side to go after some baby mama drama that you had nothing to do with. And then Janeway's going to have the audacity to say, you know what, the whole crew is going to back this play. Let's gamble with everybody's life and go walk into the biggest trap made by the biggest, by basically the Santa Claus of traps.
They sum it up in the dialogue itself and then still make the stupid decision, and that's what I hate about it. If you want to make this episode happen and you're a writer, I get it. You want to make the episode happen, so you're going to find a way. And sometimes that can be difficult to do. I completely understand. I am willing to stretch my imagination a little bit. I am watching a show about something that's supposed to happen 400 years in the future on a spaceship that looks like it's the fucking conference room of a Holiday Inn. So I am capable of this. I can do it. I can take that journey with you. However, could you please not say in the scene, this bitch is probably setting us up. She is the person that is the most capable of deceiving us and using us using this exact circumstance that she has set up. Let's go fucking do it.
And everybody's peachy keen about it.
And everyone's down with that because, it could be your child, even though it may not actually be your child when you really think about it. Like, she could be lying about that too. I mean, they know the score. They say they know the score. And then they're like, fuck it. Let's stick our dick into the lawnmower anyway. I just, it is what we've discovered about the writing on the show. None of this ever surprises me. These guys just do not fucking stop and think and say to themselves, is this making any fucking sense? It's not making any fucking sense. Let's not do it this way.
Well, it's not that easy of a conclusion to come to for old Chakotay because he knows damn well that this is a bad idea. He's got the conflict, and like any stressed out, weak-willed person, he turns over to the crack pipe. And in this case, it's that sweet, sweet peyote hand vibrator that we have not seen, I believe, at all this season. He's got his old trusty medicine bag out. He's got his hand on his future Indian weed machine or whatever you want to call it.
Space peyote, yeah.
Space peyote. And he's buzzing his hand up hard. And he starts to hallucinate and goes into a dream sequence with the one guy I really did not want to see ever again, and that was Chakotay's dad.
Yeah, he makes an appearance from Tattoo, which that's probably going to be on my bottom 5, possibly the number 1 or number 2. Although I will say he's like 87% more tolerable in this episode.
I thought the complete opposite. And this just plays into how cockamamie the backbone of this episode is. That when Chakotay instantly is talking to the blue glowy of his father, essentially, right?
Yes, the Force Ghost, yes.
And it's a very clear, there's nothing like hazy or dreamlike about it. It's just like, hey, Dad, what's up? I know you've been dead for a while and I miss the hell out of you. And apparently I have the ability to call on your spirit whenever I feel like it. But I'm having some problems. And before he can really even explain what's going on to his dad's like, well, you need to buck up and be a man. And if you got a son out there, go out and do it. And he starts trying to explain it. And it's like, well, hey, Dad, it's not that simple. You see, we're on a spaceship, but we're in the Delta Quadrant. And I used to be a terrorist, but now I'm Starfleet again. And my crazy ex, she pulled the condom out of the trash and got herself pregnant. But now she's with these dirty Kmart Klingons. And they're trying to steal our shit. And it's just like, it's such a long, crazy, cockamamie situation he would have to explain to his ghost father, who should realistically already know all this stuff, right? Because it's just a hallucination, we would assume. Sure. And his dad just comes off as like super ignorant to the whole thing. Is like Chakotay, I feel, is like trying to like hold the line, like, Dad, let me explain this to you so you understand where my self-doubt's coming from. His dad's like, no. Yeah, well, you know, if he's got 2 arms and 2 legs and a heartbeat, you need to fully embrace him and go after this thing. And by the way, you're the product of rape. And
yeah, like all of a sudden it takes this right turn into, let me tell you about how the white man raped our ancestors. Like, whoa,
literally.
Oh,
shit. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I signed up for this kind of an episode.
Hold on. So let's flag on the play. We were talking to Space Ghost while high on space peyote here. Like, seems like there's some stuff going on in your subconscious that you're thinking about that.
Yeah. So
keep on wraps.
So I start tuning Ghost Dad out because I'm tired of his bullshit already. And my mind starts wandering and I'm like, does Chakotay have a last name?
Yeah, not that we've heard.
I mean, he's a citizen of the Federation in the 24th century. Like, I get like, all right, Vulcans only have one name, but we've never really heard otherwise. And I'm curious how this guy's been able to get through all the Federation hoops and Starfleet hoops on this one name thing. But we get to the end of the dream sequence with his dad. It's completely fucking absurd. He's convinced himself that he is in fact going to commit to this plan, and drags the entire crew into the biggest fuck-up misstep of the entire season.
Yeah, that's an adequate way to put it. His ghost dad says that he needs to love his rape baby no matter what. That's kind of how he puts it. It's not really hyperbole, and so that means we're going to endanger the entire ship on the off chance that this is the one time Seska isn't trying to kill all of you and take your shit. Fucking right. Anyway, so now that that's over, they start talking over strategy. And if they're going to go into Kazon space, they want to have multiple vectors of shit that they can do to defend themselves or get back up. So they do a laundry list of the stuff in the conference room. 1, Neelix sets up some conversation with a local Talaxian mining colony who, for whatever reason, they're willing to come to bat for Voyager and help out against the Kazon if necessary.
I want to talk about this.
Okay.
Why in the fuck would the Talaxians give 2 shits about Voyager?
Right? Why? Why do these guys care? Why?
You've got a guy who's a self-proclaimed coward who basically draft dodged and conveniently missed the genocide of where he was supposed to go during this war with Jatral's people. The last time you tried to help out Voyager, your ship got fucking rocked when they came in. The Kazons came and stole Paris off of it. Do you think the Talaxians knew that they were basically getting set up for an ambush?
They don't explain any of this idea for you to be able to make any kind of determination. That's what's so bizarre.
I'm talking about the last time we saw Seska. When you remember they offloaded Paris onto a ship,
yeah,
and luckily for them, the Kazon, when they attacked the ship, they didn't kill anybody or really blow the ship up. They just grabbed Paris and then bounced out instead of enslaving everybody.
right.
I would say if there's any reason for there to be any goodwill towards Voyager, it would have been in Faces when they ended up in that penal colony that the Vidians were running and using people as an organ farm. And there was like that Talaxian guy who very kindly offered them water, and then they completely left his ass behind to be organ harvested. Like, had that guy run off and actually been like the mining colony's leader's son, I'd say, oh, that's a great reason. But as it stands, like, dealing with the death ship Voyager is a terrible idea. And now you're talking about, hey, we're going to back you on a play to go get your long lost son from the Nistrum, who's the baddest motherfucker Kazon game in town. And we're going to piss him off and throw in our cards with you who are leaving the Delta Quadrant and, you know, essentially never to be seen from again. And we're just going to basically start a war with the warlike warriors over nothing to no gain to ourselves. Boggling.
Do you remember season 1 when they were near Talaxia and they tried to momentarily undo that genocide in Jatrell and then just kind of gave up? I mean, clearly that would have inspired all of the Talaxian people to, you know, put their lives on the line to fight the fucking Kazon.
I didn't want to get into that because it pisses me off, but I was thinking about that in the shower. B'Elanna puts in more effort. Harry puts in more effort to fixing a fucking space mannequin potential sex robot who just so happens to be a homicidal murder bot. Okay. Voyager put in weeks of effort into fixing up Space Tin Man, and they didn't even know what the hell the end goal on that thing could have just been a hump bot, right? And they could have saved an entire fucking moon, and they only put in 5 minutes. If I was the Talaxian Prime Minister, Voyager would be so high up on the persona non grata list, like they would be like 2 fuck yous.
And that's just one line of dialogue that you're just like, what? Why? Okay, fine. Like it's a lot of that in this episode. They just keep moving.
Sure. You're grabbing into some Talaxian dudes, whatever. And then they've got some pretty legit censor tricks that they're talking about doing, which is faking out Talaxian ships on sensors for a diversion thing, and then also refitting some of the holographic emitters to the outside of the ship so they could actually make holographic projections of Talaxian fighters. Which, since we're already picking at this Talaxian scab, so you're the Talaxians, and Neelix reach out to you and say, hey man, can you back us on this? And you're like, you turn the thing on mute and you lean over to your boss. You're like, man, fuck these guys. They haven't done anything to help us, but you know, we don't want to piss them off. Hey, let's just BS them and say, sure, we'll help. And when they call, we'll be like, hey, sorry, we're out of gas. We can't help you after all.
Right. Sorry, we're in the shower.
Meanwhile, you've got Voyager engineering 2 different ways to basically commit identity theft. Like if the Talaxians like, we do not want war with the Kazon, tell Voyager whatever, but we will not help them because we're not going to bring these guys to our mining colony so they can, you know, rape and pillage us. And then you got Voyager over there like basically making duplicates and dummies and 3D printing your mask while they go ahead and rob a bank under your assumed identity. That's real shitty.
You're right. It is shitty. Like, what if the Kazon believe the deception and then therefore go and exterminate all of the Talaxians? Like, yeah, that's
it's like if
up.
you and I want to go rob a bank, we're like, what if we dressed up like Crips when we did it? Those guys wouldn't be mad, right?
Yeah, I didn't think of that. That is true. That is really unethical on the part of the Starfleet crew.
Oh, you didn't say unethical, did you?
Well, I mean, you know, they already murdered somebody in the last few weeks, so really.
What if someone's like,
what's
we're
this?
trying to get every advantage we get, like, we need to get good tactical people too. Hey, let's see what that Tuvix guy is up to.
Oh, womp womp.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they got sensor tricks, they got hologram tricks, and they have, for whatever reason, commitments by the Talaxian mining colony that they're going to back them. But that only goes so long, and realistically, they're going to lose communication range with these Talaxians by the time they get into wherever part of space they have to go to. And again, my notes throughout this whole thing is the core principle of this episode is absurd. So I think if we can kind of just set that aside for a moment and just say there is, for whatever reason, a legit reason for Voyager to go in, the episode starts picking up some pretty good momentum and some cool stuff really starts happening. Those three things in any other context other than going to find Chakotay's long lost son would have been pretty strong plays on Voyager's behalf.
What we see in sequence is the kind of the unveiling of a really clever master plan. It starts with them finding a shuttle in Kazon space that's been badly damaged, that has a single occupant in critical condition. They beam that occupant aboard, and it's a Kazon that's a recurring Kazon character.
They played me so hard on this because when they finally show him, the back of his head is to you and you see him looking down, but they won't show his face. And I was like, oh boy, I hope Joe was just blowing smoke up my ass. And what's his name? Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh yeah.
You're actually going to be in this again.
Yeah. So it's Aaron Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg, I think, is the guy who played Mark Zuckerberg in the Social Network. But
he would have been a welcome addition too. I wouldn't have been down to see Mark Zuckerberg Kazon. That could defy all logic, but I'd be good for it.
That would have definitely broken new ground. It's subverted expectations, but it's not Aaron. It's not Noggs Kazon. It's not Bob from Batman '89 either. It's Tierna, who is a kind of like just a background thug from other episodes, and who Chakotay remembers from having the shit beat out of him by him while he was captured the last time we had a lot of Seska time. And he points out that this guy was Seska's number one guy, and he immediately perks up at the mention of Seska's name and says that Seska's dead. So this is evidently what he is trying to sell, that Seska has died, and that it was because she tried to manipulate the Maj one too many times, and he had enough, just barged in one day and cut her throat, took the baby and just like mailed it off to a servant planet. And this guy barely got away by bribing a guard to get him to a shuttle, and then he got, the shot shit out of him.
This cockamamie premise. The cool part about it is it's the crux of Seska, right? You never really know. All of Seska's bullshit is so subtle yet cut so deep that, is it the truth? Is it a manipulation? It all almost could be, or it's all feasible, right? So as this guy's laying it down, of course, that they're not going to take one of their strongest antagonist characters and have her actually been killed off camera. But everything this guy's saying makes sense. She does jerk color around. It is going to be a problem when he finds out that, it's a human baby and not a Kazon baby. It all almost works. So I
will say that I think the best part about this like is that nobody really wants to believe it. And Chakotay, most of all, absolutely does not believe it. Like as much as they know they're going into a trap, and this guy's probably fucking with them, like, they work every angle to try and figure out like how this guy is fucking with them. They don't like blindly accept it, which is a nice change. That these guys are finally wise to the fact they're getting played all the time.
This guy does a pretty good job too. I'm going to say that he's basically the Kazon equivalent to Smoldering Catcher. He's been that background thug.
Yeah,
Gotten good screen time, and now that he's finally getting some dialogue, I think he holds down the fort. And like you said, where Voyager usually glosses over very obvious solutions, especially where technology could possibly be related, and creates hardship where there doesn't need to be any. Chakotay, who's firing on all cylinders, is like, hey, doctor, I'm going to go and interrogate this guy again. I want you to basically hit him up with a lie detector while I'm talking to him. And the doctor's like, I can't, because here's a pretty valid reason, excuse why not. And we can cross off this very obvious thing that we should have done off the list and move along in acknowledgement of that.
They go through all of like the technical checks. The doctor is like, I can't actually determine if he's telling the truth or not because we don't know enough about Delta Quadrant species to have a baseline for, truth responses. They go through a lot to like show the skepticism everyone's having about it and how much effort they put into selling it.
Yes.
Like that this guy clearly endangered his life to an incredible degree if it is not true. Like this is it if it isn't what he is saying is not accurate, then this is the biggest gamble they could possibly have made to try and plant this story. And then they put him in on the spot and say, well, then, give up the command codes for the Kazon defense net. And then he does it. It seems like they're building that this guy is telling the truth, that what he has to say is legit.
The command code part was funny. I'm like, oh, apparently they got the same problem that Tuvok does, and it's that you forget to completely change codes after you have traitors discovered in your midst who escape your clutches. They also give Neelix a pretty strong scene while they're going over with they're debriefing this guy and see what intelligence he has, and they're trying to plot a course to where they think Chakotay's kid's at. And Neelix calls him out and says, why are you having us waste all this time? You know damn well there's a shortcut that we could shave days off of the travel time here and get there faster. Why are you moving us through this more hazardous terrain? And the dude's like, well, because that is like super hot spot where there's tons of patrols and it's really dangerous. And you would know that if you weren't an idiot. And Neelix is like, well, actually, I did know that. And I was testing to see if you would have let us ease ourselves into a trap. And you did not. So, again, keeping the whole ruse plausible.
Yeah, it wasn't like Neelix was posturing. Like, it clearly was like him being useful and using his knowledge of this area of space to see if he could trap this guy, and then admitting that he did not fall into the trap. So, all in all, I guess the reason why I love this part of the episode is that it's really just like the perfect Seska scheme. That
absolutely
that she has these guys so clocked that she knows, like, okay, if we're gonna fucking sell them on this, it's gotta look 100% legit, and this guy's gotta give up these goods, and we have to have this guy take him on a fucking merry trail of wonderment that looks like it's the safe option.
And the whole time the guy's like, I don't want to go.
I don't want to do this.
Suicide run. Yeah. We need to back off. This is a bad idea. When they find me, they're gonna fuck me up. You guys are all gonna die. It's gonna be a bad time. So they're pulling out all the stops, and they're playing this one very well. So they finally decide that they're gonna pursue this course, and off they go. And basically, they're going through like the outlands of Kazon territory in whatever form it exists as. It's not Nistrum space, but there's still Kazon yahoos flying around in their ghetto sleds, and they come around and they start taking pot shots at Voyager. We get a couple pretty strong run and gun CGI sequence, and it's this episode has some pretty good space battles and then some really terrible CGI that we'll get a taste of later on. But They repel a couple of Kazon raiders, and they decide that they're going to be good for an hour or two. And we have a low point in the episode. Well, not a low point, because it serves the Lon agenda, but they're basically in red alert, expecting attacks at any moment. And Tuvok's like, "Hey, Captain, since we got 2 minutes, can we go swing by Lon's quarters in this really tense time so you can go talk to him about his science project he wants to do?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, now seems like a great time for that."
They go down to Lon's quarters, and Lon just is fussy because he hasn't cleaned in advance or whatever, but starts to explain what he wants to do. He's obviously very enthusiastic, wants to give back to the ship. Janeway seems pretty impressed. But the problem is that Lon hasn't learned how to take no for an answer.
Absolutely not.
And so he tries to the hard sail, and Janeway gives him the polite brush off a little bit, saying, "Hey, I got to talk to this person. This person already talked to that person. Well, hey, that's cool. Just let me think about it." Clearly it's just hey, just give me some distance on this idea. We might do this. It was pretty positive. Because he keeps pressing, though, he gets super insistent and gets the serial killer eye. You see the glint in the eye, the Chucky glint. And Janeway all of a sudden's like, "You know what? I'm just going to go. This seems like a bad vibe, bad time. It's bad stuff's happening here." And we see Lon again a little later, and he is in straight up serial killer brooding mode, sitting in the darkness, shrouded in darkness. In his chair, his brooding chair, contemplating his lot in life.
I didn't get the serial killer vibe towards the end. Certainly he loses his cool. He pushes too hard, and even Tuvok's like, you better slow your roll. And when she leaves, I think it's a very clear moment of self-reflection where he realizes very clearly that he done goofed, and that forgot all of his meditation stuff, and that he has lost control, and this was a very poor performance on his end. It's an odd place for the scene, but it was still a good scene. And again, I've really grown attached to the Lon Suder character, so cool part to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I liked that they're doing something with him. Obviously, it's been this open thread, and I like how they're dealing with it, but
I think it would have been cool if they would have given this the same treatment as some of the other story arc stuff, like Tom going bad for no reason. If they just sprinkled a few of these scenes in throughout the season following the death of, following the Meld episode, so they maybe didn't telegraph so heavily that what his future involvement in all this would have been.
They had a lot they had to try and do.
Yeah.
I think with the time that they had, they did the right things. I think that's what I can say. I part of me would have appreciated a more focused sort of Lon Suder adventure than having it be kind of squeezed in with some other plot stuff. But
I'm just saying that these scenes specifically, you could have put some of this in the last episode and some of the other more dud slow episodes.
I don't know if I don't know if I agree with that, though. So not to go too far down on this tangent, but I feel like if you're gonna deal with Lon again, you kind of want to do it all at once rather than kind of stretch it out. I think it's one of those plot lines that works better in this way. I just wish they had spent more time on it at once than having it crushed up against the finale. That's all.
Couple more red alerts, couple more Kazon hillbilly raiders. But every one of these attacks is the same thing, and it's the ships coming up, taking pot shots at the something along the ventral portion of the star drive, non-critical ship systems down there, and it becomes very apparent, especially to Chakotay, who is super paranoid through this whole thing, that it's too convenient that all of these randos are just coming along and shooting the same seemingly unimportant section of the ship. So he goes down to visit their Kazon guest, and in shades of Dobie snatches this motherfucker up off the ground and puts him in a chokehold up against the door right in front of security and the doctor.
I do like the doctor's reaction. Like, not in my sick bay, please. Not, please don't beat that man. Not, please, I hate violence. Not, that is terribly uncivilized and against Starfleet regulations. It's just, can you please not get blood on my carpet?
Again,
can you just take that fucking shit outside?
This is a safe space, all right? This is where people come to get healed. Not where you interrogate your Kmart Klingons. Not a fucking execution gas chamber where you murder Tuvix.
Yes.
It's a hospital.
Yeah. Can we stop murdering people here? Can we please?
But Chakotay calls it out and says, I find it, why are these guys all keep attacking the same place? If you're lying to me and I find out, I'm coming after you. But even through this rough-handed interrogation, Kazan dude holds up. And then what?
That's when there's one more like attack by a raider, and it finishes off the secondary command circuits. This is a thing that they keep attacking. It finally blows them out, and Harry's like, it's going to take us a couple days to fix this now because we have to rebuild it from scratch. And that's when they're like, all right, obviously we have to rethink our strategy because we're definitely getting picked on this one piece of our vessel for some reason. And we haven't figured out what that reason is yet, but it's time for us to, think back and regroup on this. And when they make that decision is when suddenly, out of nowhere, there's 8 giant fucking space hoopties bearing down on them, filled with Kmart Klingons, and it is the Nistrum, and they are here to fuck them up. Which,
not
of
only
course,
is it the Nistrum, though, they are flying in a very distinctive Cardassian attack pattern.
Yep. They are attacking exactly the way perhaps a Obsidian Order agent would have instructed them to. And they start to deploy their countermeasures. So they do the sensor trick first. It peels off half the attack groups, and now Voyager only has to deal with 4. They start activating the holographic Talaxians, thus endangering their entire planet. At one point, they accidentally put the Doctor in space for a weird comedy moment.
How'd you feel about that, man?
That was stupid as fuck.
It was so
dumb.
bad. It looked terrible. The CG was bad. I was reading Memory Alpha. They put a ton of time and work into like wire work on making him seem like he's flailing around.
Why?
And it was just
fucking why?
Such misplaced money and time for the production on this thing.
Did we just really need a laugh? Did this episode just need a little levity right there? Is that what they're like, oh, we gotta brighten this one up? The fuck? Right in the middle of our serious cliffhanger season finale, in the middle of a life or death fight where they're using like cheap technological tricks to try and confuse these guys long enough to put a hurt on them. We're gonna do a quick bit where the Doctor's in space getting shot at by phasers. Oh boy, how's he gonna get out of this one? Like, fuck off.
You know, like his tango dance to dodge ship fire.
It's like some goofy shit. Like, of course you remember Insurrection, right?
Uh-huh.
Remember all the goofy shit in that movie that just holds it the fuck down?
I'm going to call that, and I didn't read anything to verify that this was in fact her touch on it, but I'm going to call that a Jerry moment.
You know what? I'm willing to go along on that journey with you. That's a Jerry moment for sure. But the battle goes relatively well. They are shitting out all their photon torpedoes at these guys. Like,
they're holding their own. At this point, it's 4 Nistrum big boy ships. It's Voyager, and they're basically trying to find their way out. And I want to say, I think they successfully... No, they didn't take out their warp drive yet, so I'm not sure why they didn't just warp out of there. But we cut to a scene, and we see Kazan homeboy in his quarters. And he's doing some sort of weird little prayer, and you know that something is up, and that this is going to be their new Jonas. This is going to be their inside man. And in a subsequent follow-up cutaway to this guy, we get one of probably the grossest scene I think I've seen in Voyager since we saw Tuvok getting his brain microwaved. And this dude gets his boot off.
Oh,
and he gets his bronzed foot up.
Oh, yeah.
And he reaches down, and this guy peels his own toenail off.
Oh, Stevie couldn't watch. I was watching this episode with my wife. She's stuck in there with me for pretty much every episode so far. And this is the first time I saw her like recoil in horror and be like, no, yeah. Oh, it's disgusting. It's awful.
Terrible. He peels off his own toenail, and then he does some sort of a magic trick where he pulls this toothpick with a needle that's like the size of a steak knife out from behind.
These guys love their needles, bro. These guys love their needles.
Whether it's in a secret Chakotay ring or underneath your toenail that you just peeled off.
Your nasty Kmart Klingon crusty fucking toenail. Ugh.
Yeah, so he pulls this needle that was like taped to the bottom of his toenail off. And then he reaches down and he injects himself with, Product X or whatever you want to call it.
Space boom boom juice.
We cut back up to the bridge. Voyager's still holding its own. I think, does Tom have the idea to take off yet, or is it later?
That happens shortly. So, Kazon homeboy hits himself with the boom boom juice. And we've heard in dialogue in prior scenes that there's some anomalous reading in this Kazon guy's blood, but the doctor couldn't figure out what it was. Well, whatever it was seems to have had a violent chemical reaction with the boom boom juice, and he explodes. He's literally a bomb. You see like a quick shot of him like expanding and being in horrible pain. Like
I couldn't tell what was going on there because he starts getting bigger and like mutating, and I was like, is this dude about to turn into like a Kazon Hulk and rampage? And I thought that would have been sweet.
It kind of looked for a second like that might happen, but then instead he literally explodes in fire and just blows a huge hole in the deck that he's on. He conveniently blows a hole in homeboy Lon Suder's quarters. And so like it's there should be a different alarm going off across the ship with that guy out. Like, oh no, everybody. Keep the pipes locked in. Lon Suder is loose.
It's like in Jurassic Park when the power goes out and the raptors get out of their pen.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But point is, as this puts Voyager in a bad way, they were handling these Kazon pretty well. This happens. It starts blowing systems. Fires start popping up. It's bad. That's when Tom skedaddles with a shuttle. They leave it unclear if he escapes, but we all kind of know, that he does.
Questionable on this, right? Because Lon goes, if I get in the shuttle, I can take off and get to the Talaxians and call for help. And it's an interesting moment because, and Tom's a good guy and whatever. But at the same time, Tom is a dirty space convict who has done some bad things in his time, and he has been unscrupulous in the past. And what if old Tom sees the writing on the wall and he is lying and he is just out to save his own ass, and he's just cowardly running off. Even if that's not the case, Tom is still supposed to be one of the best pilots in the Federation. Is now, when Voyager is heavily damaged and in a fight for its life, really the best time for Janeway to let her star pilot leave the bridge and go fly off on a shuttle to probably just get shot down by one of the 4 other ships circling around you?
I mean, that is 120% was my thought at the time too. Like, this seems like the time to send like the B pilot in the shuttle. Like, A pilot should stay with Voyager and try and unfuck this mess if possible.
Or hell, Send Chakotay out because he's an okay diplomat, and maybe he can do about. Send fucking Neelix out.
Yeah,
Put Neelix in
exactly.
Neelix's shuttle. But whatever. So, he takes off, and luckily for Tom, he gets off right before the parade of exploding Federation consoles just blow up all over the ship. And we see at least 4 crewmen catch exploding LCD panels to the dome.
Yeah, it's pretty raw. There's no like confirmed casualties, but there's some dudes getting rocked.
Mm-hmm.
100%. And we get the alarm that the Kazon are boarding through the shuttle bays and are getting into the ship. And they don't waste much time. Like, it's a few seconds later that they're everywhere, and Janeway realizes they're fucked.
They just went through this.
They really
Voyager
did.
just literally was boarded by the Vidians and got its ass kicked, and everybody got organ harvested, and they had to blow this ship up. Tuvok, do your job, man. Don't worry about running tactical drills on flying the ship around. You need to start showing people how to shoot. You need to get some emergency auto turrets mounted in these hallways, so when your every 3 week scheduled boarding parties come on board, your guys aren't losing every single fight they come across. Man, this is like a reoccurring thing now, Voyager getting its ass kicked in close quarters combat when they've got the home field advantage.
It's true. I mean, you nailed it. They seem to be very susceptible to getting boarded by the enemy. Now, they never mention overwhelming numbers or anything. I guess we can presume, since there was a bunch of these fucking space hoopties out there, there was just a shit ton of Kazon that just rolled in deep. But
an inferior enemy with inferior whatever. So it's a
dire
dire
with their fucking tickle guns and shit. Yeah.
With their pipe guns from Fallout 4.
Yes.
But on top of the Vidians, the Kazon even ran hot game on them. And it wasn't Alliances. What was the last time Seska got the leg up on him with the transporter theft?
Oh yeah. That wasn't Alliances, but that was a good one. Forget the name of the actual episode. This is the
second time the Kazon have force boarded you. Like, Tuvok, man, this is some serious mud on your face. But whatever.
Tuvix would have solved it.
That is a spicy, spicy hot take, man. What would Tuvix have done to prepare the ship better for this inevitability? Things that make you go, But, okay, yeah, the ship is fucked, and we're going down. They start calling for an abandon the ship, and Janeway does what Janeway does best when push comes to shove.
Yep, she decides to blow the ship up, and that's when Seska's master plan truly, the circle completes, and the computer informs Janeway that she can't arm the self-destruct because the secondary command circuits are not functioning, which of course is the thing these tiny little Kazon raiders have been hitting, over and over and over again. So it all makes sense that this was
so good.
Yes,
because the whole time you're kind of like, what could have those systems be? What is the plan there? You would think that with the smart computer you have, that someone would have been like, hey, computer, what are these secondary systems? What has been compromised? What's our possible outcome? Run, just spitball some hypothetical situations out there for me. But no one ever bothered to do that. And yeah, the coveted self-destruct function of Voyager is down, and Janeway's ultimate fuck you trump card has been taken out of her hands.
I love the moment that Janeway has. It's nonverbal. She just kind of looks up like, fuck. That was the whole fucking plan. She bet it all on getting us in this situation with the inability to blow ourselves up so she could finally take the goddamn ship. All too late, she realizes what the audience realizes, which is this was all her game, and she played her hand perfectly, and once again has outwitted Voyager. She has almost a perfect record of fucking with these guys, and only the most crazy shit that they've pulled have gotten them out of it. And here they are again. Seska set him up perfectly. And wouldn't you know it, the Kazon bust in, put everyone under a citizen's arrest. Seska strolls right in, baby in tow, to do a little gloating, followed by the ever hammy Maj Cullen. And they let them know that they're in deep doo-doo. Cullen is as sexist as possible in the short time he has on screen. Backs Dolby level pimp slapping Janeway across the face to emphasize his sexism when complaining about women, telling them that they're going to be all dropped off on another planet.
I don't know what it is about Cullen in this episode. I've always, up to this point, not really cared one way or the other. But in this one, I was really just feeling everything he was putting down. I think the actor, his game was on point. And for whatever little humor they tried bringing in with that stupid doctor in space bit, his role in these scenes are a foil to Seska. Seska is deadly serious, and she is like gloating at twice the capacity of hologram Janeway when hologram Janeway was telling prison clown that, real Janeway one-upped him. And whatever little rub it in your face gloating party was going on there is nothing compared to Seska just rubbing Janeway's face in the carpet. And while you got Seska doing that, like you said, Cullen's just hamming it up, man. And
so much. So good.
Like you're saying, like he's being real sexist. And his big problem why the Kazon Voyager alliance fell apart in alliances was because ultimately Cullen could not accept a woman as an equal, and he refused to. I think he actually intentionally poisoned the talks, is because he felt threatened by Janeway's good suggestions. So now that he's got the upper hand, when Janeway does try to stand up and talk to him as an equal, like you said, he just flat out pimp slaps her back down to the floor, and he's just hamming it up. And the whole time he's like shit talking Seska too, like she's out of control, she pees on the carpet, like he's talking like she's a dog, right? Like she pees on the carpet, she won't stop barking, blah 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 blah. It's your alpha quadrant nonsense that is encouraged this in her, and he's being like real shitty to her, even though she just handed him Voyager on a silver platter. Yet despite this, anytime she barks or starts getting like insistent and naggy about something, the dude folds like a house of cards.
Yeah, he's like I likened it to the worst married couple. Like he's like henpecked.
Absolutely.
It was remarkable what they decided to do with this relationship, that he's like this, tries to strut like this alpha male, but Seska just has him like locked in like they're like an unhappily married couple for 23 years with 4 kids.
They do a crew check, and they find out that everybody's accounted for except for 2 people, and a shuttlecraft is missing. And he's like, yeah, well, we destroyed the shuttle. And she's like, but did you find and anybody who's been in a relationship long enough, like, with your partner, you're like, yeah, look, here's my case. We're good on this. And then like they second guess you. And at a certain point, you give up, and you're like, whatever, I don't want to get into this. And she's like, but did you find all the wreckage, and did you get the serial numbers, and was there DNA smeared on the bulkhead where the body should have been? You need to go out and find it. And he's just like, looks like he's about to like just tell her to shut up, and he's like, instead just looks at one of his subordinates, is like, go, just make her shut up, please.
Just do whatever she's saying so she'll be happy.
Yeah, it's a real rich scene. I got a good laugh out of that one.
They take the Voyager crew to Southern California and drop them off on another Southern California M-class planet.
Define drop them off. Because when we started at the beginning of this, I said that this episode has a very unfortunate connection to the season opener 30 Seconds.
Yeah, the ship lands. First of all, the Kazon show remarkable affinity for being able to pilot Voyager under challenging circumstances.
I'm saying, man, like what? I get that you got Seska there, but these dudes in their dirty drug rugs, they're behind all the stations, they're pushing all the right buttons, and they do what has to be one of the trickiest things that even the regular Federation crew had, a very nervous time doing.
Yeah, even Tom, like ace pilot Tom, was like, "Oh, this is kind of weird. I've never done this before. It's weird." But yeah, they got this fucking shit down. Like, apparently Maj Kullo's read all the technical manuals because he's able to command the vessel no problem.
Oh yeah,
and all his fucking running buddies just know how to man the ops station or whatever. And they land the ship and they reuse shots from the 37s.
The exact terrible CGI landing sequence. As cool as all the space combat was, again, this is like Sega CD video game quality graphics here. And let's hang out for a moment and talk about Kazon motivations. All of this is fine and dandy, and again, the end goal of this is going to be to trap Voyager's crew on the surface of the planet away from all their technology. But what the hell is going on here with the way the Kazon are acting? This amazing grace and mercy that instead of pillaging and plundering and murdering the crew that has humiliated you over and over again, instead of transporting the crew into the vacuum of space as you did your Kazon enemies, instead of gunning them all down or selling them to the Vidians or any of these other things, you decide that you're going to just plop them all down on the planet and then not even hang around to watch them suffer. And I can only assume that this is part of the erratic, duplicitous nature of Seska, of never really knowing what is her end goal, what's true, what's fake. I can only assume by the fact that Kulla didn't just kill everybody that they just took captive, that it was Seska whispering in his ear saying, no, we don't need to do this. Wouldn't it be much more grand to know that they're suffering forever when really, maybe there's a shred of decency in her that's sparing her old friends' lives?
We've heard in the past from like other references that Kulla's kind of into the lingering gloating kind of punishment because it makes him feel powerful, which is, his character's very petty. He's not very efficient. He's very hammy supervillainy.
Yeah.
So the fact that he would just be like, it's like Khan, like buried alive. Yeah. Guess what? I'm gonna make you linger in how I'm superior to you now, and that you are shit by leaving you on this planet with no technology in lovely sunny Southern California, to survive on your own. Like I kind of bought it like as offered as a very Kulla supervillainy move because that's just his characterization has been pretty consistently that. So it didn't feel like a stretch to me.
I think the scene needed Seska kind of volunteering after the fact, like you can thank the Maj's unending mercy and giving you a slow death instead of just shooting you guys in the head like he initially wanted because I talked him out of it. Like I think it would have been appropriate, but whatever. The decision to land the ship was stupid and uncalled for. You could have just beamed everybody down, but I guess you spent all that money in the 37s. You want to make sure you get your money's worth and reuse that stock footage a few times. There also is a pretty nice dialogue line in there where Kulla admonishes Chakotay, saying that he's going to raise Chakotay's son as his own, and that shame on Chakotay for basically using his rank over Seska to force him to impregnate her.
Yeah, it's Chakotay's like, whoa, wait, hold on, what did you say? And then they just skip right over that, like no further discussion.
The look on Seska's face when he says that too, like she's like, ooh.
You weren't supposed to mention that in front of the guy I was lying about.
Yeah, there they are. They're on the planet. They take all their comm badges, no tricorders. It's just the ill-fitted jumpsuits on their back, and Voyager goes ahead and takes off. And right about that time, Janeway, without missing a beat, it's like, okay, we're going to split into teams. We need to get food and water and shelter. We're going to go ahead and lie to the crew and tell them help's coming. Maybe Tom is still out there. Hope's the most important thing. We need to keep it alive, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just thinking in my head, now is the point where these guys need to hit their breaking point. It's all been fun and games, but Janeway has steered them down the wrong path every time. Nobody backed this Chakotay baby adventure thing. And now the lady who has trapped them in the Delta Quadrant needlessly has trapped them on a planet surface where they are going to be probably mauled by dinosaurs. And these guys need to have had their fill. And someone needs, I think, to just step up and tell Janeway to shove it up her ass.
You're not wrong, but that's not what happens. Instead, everyone falls in the line and starts to make shit happen as requested. And
Neelix starts bossing people around. Neelix needs to be in a uniform, man. If you're assigning survival teams under your Talaxian pet, at a certain point, he just needs to be part of Starfleet crew. And I get they got,
put
money
him in regular uniform and call it good. I understand.
But yeah, they start getting going on that. We flash back over to Voyager. We see the Kazon crew at the helm, but then we go back over to where we most had Kazon Hulk, and we see the hole in the wall that we had assumed that Lon Suder had run up, but Lon's not roaming the ship's halls. Lon is deep in the cut, hiding up in the vents, peeking through, wild-eyed.
Oh yeah, he. What the premise of what we have on the ship is that the two agents that the Federation have left up there are the doctor who shut himself off for 12 hours so that the Kazon did not immediately see him or think of him as activated, and then fucking crazy ass murder mayhem man Lon Suder rolling around in the Jeffries tubes looking like a man who needs a hobby. And so there's going to be some shit that happens, and we all know there's going to be some shit that happens.
Lon's looking for a hobby, and he's fresh out of hydroponic bays.
Yeah, you gone and blown up his old one, so his new one may have to go back to the old one. He's, it's like all they had to do was cut to him just slowly raising a pipe into view in his hand, and it's like, the fucking Kazon are done for. Lon Suder has a pipe.
What I want him to do is slowly bring a blue bandana up and tie it around his head in a Metal Gear Solid moment as we get introduced to Solid Suder,
Oh, you have a codec, right? With the doctor? As Campbell?
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, forget about Elite Forces. I need a Star Trek Voyager game that is Lon Suder going solid steak on some Kazon asses, man. Tactical Espionage. The only entry in the tactical espionage arena for the Star Trek franchise. Solid Suder.
Oh, man.
I'd play it. I'd play the shit out of that.
I'd play the absolute crap out of that. There'd be no fucking trank darts in this game.
No, just trank pipes.
Just trank pipes. And stuffing dead bodies in the lockers. It's into like fucking engine room shit.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Wow, this is the fourth. What's wrong with these engines? Oh, they're all just jammed up with your dead dudes. What the hell's going on?
I got this vision of, he's like crouched behind. It's the same isometric view as the game. And it's like a Kazon walking by and it's, patrolling. And he like throws out the Lady Kazon magazine, to distract him so he can sneak by.
In the final battle with Seska, where she's in the role of Sniper Wolf and she's up at the high ground taking pot shots at him, and then Suder cheats and he just uses the tow missiles to bend around the corner and blow her. Speaking of which, that PlayStation's coming out, and I think Metal Gear Solid's going to be on it.
There is.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of those games. I not only owned all of them, I bought the Twin Snakes remake of Metal Gear Solid for the GameCube.
Yeah.
And what that one did was it like gave it, graphical polish, and then you could do like the first person controls that you could in Metal Gear Solid 2,
Yeah,
which made the game too easy.
of course. When Psycho Mantis read your memory card and found out that you like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, that was like mind blowing.
It was. Oh, you like Castlevania? I was like, how do you know?
Wow,
You
a
fucking monster.
Witchcraft. So, anyways, yeah, Star Trek, man. Unfortunately, it's no PlayStation adventures for Voyager's crew. They're there without electricity. They see some cavemen crawling out. There's a dinosaur of some sort, and Voyager flying off into the distance. Voyager looks terrible. The CG is terrible. They worked on they worked a lot on the ratio, not the ratio, but like the dimensions of what Voyager should look like to scale with people on the ground. But I couldn't really notice any difference. And there we end. The Kazon have a clear upper hand. Voyager's effed. Lon Suder is deep in the cut, and Paris's fate is to be determined.
Yep, and that's where they leave it. So obviously we are very critical of the setup, and deservedly so, because it's poorly written. But some of the action's great. The Lon Suder stuff is good. The technobabble like problem solving is good. Chakotay is interesting because he's having to deal with Seska's bullshit. Yeah.
And that always makes plans are feasible and visceral and genius.
Perfect Seska shit.
Mm-hmm. Kala's antics are amusing.
Yes. Overall, despite its glaring weaknesses in parts, it's not a bad episode, and it's definitely a better note to end on than Space Friendship is Magic, Boot Camp, Dolby Punch that we had for season 1. So
I would have to
give it that.
I'll call this a really good episode, even with the terrible premise. Like it's serviceable, and they cover a lot of their bases. And I want
to take apart what you just said, Peter. You said it's a really good episode, and then you said it's serviceable.
I said the backbone, the hook of Chakotay's baby is serviceable.
No, I don't really think so, man. That shit falls apart. Like in the first scene where they're talking about it, it's fucking retarded.
Yeah, but it's Voyager staff wants to tell a story, and they're just going to ramrod it to happen. I would say in this case, they at least make a few concessions instead of just people being stupid, ignorant of the fact they're being stupid, at least in this one. And I think that really adds to the burn that Janeway has to take there at the end, because she was so smug and she really thought that she was going to walk into a very obvious trap and somehow walk out of this the victor. And when the Hulk blows up and she finally, they get fucked, and she goes to blow the ship up before it gets taken. And only then does, the final door open and she sees that she's just been played the entire time. That was a pretty gratifying moment to have to watch her humbled like that.
So here we are at the end, man. Season 2 is in the books.
No, not yet. We got that one more to go, and then it'll be go time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing our rip into season 2 and really discussing it as a whole body of work.
Same here. I want to go back through what we've seen and put things in perspective. I'm looking forward to talking with you about it, man, and hopefully having a little crowd along with us. Do you have any readings from the Ferengi Bible to close this out?
I do. This is going to be one of the unnamed rules of acquisitions. Why ask when you can take?
Yeah. Seska. And
absolutely.
When she has truly been the best part of the show so far. So
I don't know, man. Suder's coming up as a close second. We're going to get 2 of the best secondary characters, I think, that we have at our disposal at this point, going into Basics Part 2. Speaking of Basics Parts 2, we have a picture. It's what looks like Kala. I don't know, some Kazon, and he's talking to the Starfleet people in a shot that looks like You're observing the scene from hiding in someone's trunk. The Kazon commandeer Voyager and strand the crew on a desolate planet, leaving only the Doctor, Paris, and the murderer Suder to retake the ship. I wonder how it's going to go.
All right, guys. Join us next time for our Voyager Please live stream. We'll keep you advised as exactly what day it will be. And until then, peace.